Welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right into some seriously fascinating insights from Dr. Vikas Divakirti. We're going to map out the complete journey of human potential. We're starting from the absolute basics, just daily discipline and habits, and going all the way up to the kind of wild, world-changing innovation that literally redefines our future. It's this brilliant framework that really breaks down exactly what separates the good from the great, and honestly, the great from the absolute legends.
Okay, let's look at the agenda. We've got 5 key stages in this pyramid of mastery. We'll kick things off with the real mantra of success. Compare luck versus real aptitude, figure out what form actually is, dive into experience and creativity, and wrap up with innovations of the future. Let's get into it.
Starting at the absolute base of our pyramid, we have Section 1, the real mantra of success. So, we live in a world that's totally obsessed with life hacks, right? We're always hunting for that one magic metric, that perfect daily ritual, or that secret habit that guarantees a ticket to the top. Everybody wants to know, what is the single biggest habit that takes an ordinary person and makes them highly successful?
Well, Dr. Divakirti argues that if you just strip away all the noise, it's not some specific morning routine, it boils down to one massive treat. You might call it discipline or hard work or patience, but he says the most beautiful, encompassing word for this is perseverance. It's all about keeping your ultimate target locked in your mind and just working steadily over a long period. Think of it kind of like cooking on a slow, low heat. It's not about burning out in this huge blaze of glory, it's about simmering your efforts consistently, day in and day out. Anyone who actually does this, no matter what field they're in, is eventually going to find success.
And this totally debunks the whole myth of the perfect morning routine. We hear it all the time, right? Waking up before dawn is the big secret. But Dr. Divakirti points out a pretty brilliant reality from his own experience with UPSC candidates. He's seen students who wake up at 4 a.m. absolutely crush the grueling IAS exams. But get this, he's also seen students who go to sleep at 4 a.m. clear those exact same exams. It just goes to show that specific sleep schedules are really just personal rituals. They aren't the core driver of success. That core driver? It's that slow-burning perseverance.
Moving up the pyramid, we hit Section 2, luck versus real aptitude.
Because look, perseverance is vital, absolutely, but it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There's a really stark contrast between different professions. In some fields, like the film industry for example, success can sometimes be heavily influenced by pure luck, a fluke, or your family background. If you're born into a major film family, you get repeated chances. If you can manage just decent basic acting, one hit movie can make you a superstar. But then contrast that with classical singing or clearing the UPSC. You cannot conquer those by accident or because of who your parents are. Even if you come from a family of legendary classical singers, you absolutely have to put in 10 to 20 years of intense, totally non-negotiable practice to reach a level where people recognize your greatness. No shortcuts.
But here's the catch. Even with 20 years of practice, you need something else. Let's talk about cricket. The crucial point here is that to reach the level of a Virat Kohli, practice alone just won't cut it. You need a massive, nature-given genetic aptitude. Just imagine a ball flying at you at 150 kilometers per hour. In a single second, a top batsman has to process that ball, calculate the angle, be completely aware of all the fielders, and figure out the exact speed and angle to swing the bat. That requires an incredibly high IQ, lightning-fast motor skills, and literal millisecond processing power. If you don't have that baseline biological aptitude built in, no amount of hard work is going to make you a world-class batsman. You really have to know your aptitude before choosing your battlefield.
Which brings us to Section 3. What is form?
So, we have perseverance and we have biological aptitude. But this brings up a super fascinating question. What happens when two players have the exact same aptitude, the exact same high IQ, and the same 25 years of practice, yet one is constantly getting out and the other is just effortlessly hitting centuries? This is where we get into that highly abstract, psychological peak known as form. You hear it in sports constantly. Someone is in form or out of form. Dr. Divakirti explains that form essentially means being incredibly comfortable with yourself on any given day. It's this flow state where your mind, your body, and honestly, even your soul are acting in perfect synergy. You're completely free from pressure, zero superstitions, just purely playing as yourself.
And this concept brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of that psychological state. Think about it. When a player is truly in form, their perception of reality literally shifts. A small, crazy-fast cricket ball suddenly looks as massive and as slow as a football. Hitting it is just effortless. But the second they lose that confidence, when that internal synergy breaks down, That exact same cricket ball suddenly looks as tiny as a table tennis ball. And this applies to absolutely everything in life, not just sports. When you're in that perfect synergy, the impossible just seems easy.
Moving right along, Section 4, Experience and Creativity.
As we keep climbing this pyramid, we have to ask how this mastery, this form, eventually evolves into pure creativity over years of experience. Dr. Divyakirti shares this incredible insight from his own life as a teacher. Normally, he prepares meticulously for every single class. But a few times in his career, he got stuck in horrible traffic and had to just rush straight into the classroom, completely unprepared. And surprisingly, he found that those were often his absolute best classes. Why is that? Well, in psychology, if your neural pathways are too fixed and too rehearsed, creativity actually struggles to emerge. But when you're suddenly thrown into a situation completely unprepared, your brain is forced to bypass those fixed routes. It just frantically starts connecting random, previously unlinked dots and experiences, sparking this brilliant, spontaneous flow of creativity.
Over time, as you absorb new knowledge and live through all these different experiences, a convergence happens in your brain. Dr. Divyakirti uses this genuinely wonderful metaphor here that I just love. He compares this merger of experience and creativity to making halwa, the traditional Indian sweet dish. When you combine flour, sugar, and milk, the final product isn't just a mixture of those three things. It transforms into a completely new entity. And that is what true mastery looks like. When you speak or perform at that elite level, what you produce literally cannot be found in any textbook. It's a completely unique synthesis of your lifetime of experiences.
In the cricketing world, this is exactly how iconic innovations are born. Take MS Dhoni's legendary helicopter shot. A player might have faced, 200,000 balls in their career, but one day a completely unique delivery comes down the pitch. In a fraction of a second, literally a hundredth of a second, the brain realizes that standard shots just won't work. So, drawing on that massive reservoir of stored experience and keeping the mind totally open to creativity, the brain invents a completely new way to swing the bat. A boundary is hit, history is made, and a brand new shot is born. It is the ultimate perfect combination of motor skills, IQ, and pure creative freedom.
Finally, we reach the top, Section 5, Innovations of the Future. This is the absolute apex of our pyramid. The visionaries who take all this mastery and use it to redefine the game completely. Let's talk about where AI and innovation are taking us. Dr. Divyakirti envisions this wild future concept called neurofilms. Picture this. You walk into a cinema 10 years from now. You don't just sit down. You actually put on a helmet lined with electrodes. The movie you're watching won't even have a fixed length. As a sad scene plays, a machine is literally reading the emotional signals directly from the brains of the audience. A live dashboard is tallying this data in real time. If the software sees that only 88 out of 1,000 people are feeling sadness, the film dynamically extends the scene until it hits its emotional target of 999 people. On the flip side, if a horror scene scares the audience in 2 minutes instead of 3, the scene instantly cuts short. The film continuously adapts its length and flow based entirely on live biofeedback. The person who figures out how to create the first true neurofilm, they are going to be the undisputed king of the entertainment industry.
And this really brings us to the ultimate level of disruption, the stark contrast between a traditional mindset and a true innovator mindset. Think about it. While traditional car companies spend decades fighting over who can build a slightly better petrol engine, visionaries like Elon Musk step back and ask, wait, why do we even need an engine? Let's just use batteries. While others are trying to make better steering wheels, the innovator asks, why do we even need human drivers? Let's use sensors and AI. And honestly, the most mind-bending of all, while companies are out there building better smartphones for communication, companies like Neuralink are asking, why do we even need to speak? Let's put a chip in the brain and communicate via telepathy. This is exactly how you build trillion-dollar companies. You don't just play the existing game better, you completely change the rules of the game.
The true kings of the future are the ones who think completely outside the current system. We started our journey today with the simple, daily discipline of perseverance, and we've ended up at brain chips and dynamic neurofilms. The journey from discipline to absolute disruption is very, very real. Which leaves us with one incredibly thrilling question to ask ourselves. If you can master your own slow-burning perseverance, if you can harness your natural aptitude, and if you can finally unlock that fluid state of creativity, what current paradigm are you going to disrupt? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it leaves you looking at your own potential in a completely new light.